Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Blue Sunday here on In the Blue Corner channel. Vince Lochisano with you, joined as usual by my partner in crime, Stephen Katib. Good evening to you, Stephen.
Hey, Vince. How you going?
Not too bad for a Carlton supporter on the losing side this week, unfortunately, but certainly had our chances to sneak in a win that we probably didn't deserve to win, but nevertheless, sometimes you win some that you don't deserve to win, and sometimes you lose some that you do deserve to win. What did you think of the game on Thursday night?
Yeah, look, obviously depleted by injury and probably outplayed for probably three quarters or periods of the game, totaling 3 quarters. So, look, Richmond deserved their victory, and I think there was probably some lessons learnt by our players of probably trying to play a little bit too cute or too precise, maybe not adapting to the conditions as well as probably they could have. But then again, as we said, we had a lot of younger players that hadn't had a lot of games and experience, and they got some experience through that game, which would have been good for them. But Richmond were too good on the night.
I thought we got off to a horrible start. I think they kicked 6 goals before we finally kicked one. I think it was halfway through the second quarter before we scored our first goal. So I think that's where the game was essentially won and lost. And although we did fight back, really well, and we never gave up the chase, with a bit of luck there in that last quarter, there was a decision made where the Jack Newnes goal was deemed to be touched by a Richmond player. In my view, it wasn't very definitive in order to overturn a decision, but nevertheless, that's the way they interpreted it. But that could have put us within 3 points, and we had all the momentum going into that last period of the game. And to have that overturned almost took the wind out of our sails a bit. The air sort of seemed to come out of the balloon, and then Richmond, responded with one down the other end. So it was a bit of a 2-goal turnaround. What could have been a 3-point deficit ended up being a 14-point deficit after they scored that next goal. And I think that's where the game ended up finishing up, I think, 15 points in the end. So, yeah, it was a pivotal moment in the game, but, we certainly gave them a big head start. It was almost reminiscent of the 1982 grand final, which was being celebrated that night, of course, the 40th anniversary, where Carlton back in 1982 got off to a 3-goal lead pretty quickly, like Richmond did in the first quarter. Of course, that's what the margin was at the end of the game, 3 goals. So
Helen D'Amico didn't appear, though, a bit cold for her.
Yes, I don't think Helen was game to go out until the MCG last Thursday night. And, of course, she's 40 years older than she was back then. I don't know that she'd be too keen to show off her wares now that she's probably in her 60s. But anyway, yes, now you've thrown me completely.
Well, when you mentioned the 1982 grand final, whether you win, lose,
where does your mind go?
Straight away.
As a 14-year-old, as a young 14-year-old teenager going to his very first grand final with his dad, let me tell you, it was an experience and a half to watch her going onto the ground.
The look on Bruce Doull's face.
It was almost like he'd seen a ghost. He didn't need to look to Jim Jess to see a ghost. They used to call Jim Jess the ghost back then.
That's right. Yeah.
But he looked like he'd seen a ghost. He didn't know what to do, poor old Bruce. But yes, they were good memories. But let's not get distracted. By the way,
I kept reminiscing. I'm sorry for.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
Yeah,
they were the great old days, weren't they?
That was when the game had a bit of flair and colour and flavour to it, right?
Yes, and it's good that you mentioned that, because there's something about the game's flair that I want to discuss a bit later on as one of our topics of the week. But Yes, I was just going to say to all of our
Yeah.
viewers out there, if any of you want to make a comment or ask a question or put in your 2 cents worth, by all means do that on our Facebook channel in the blue corner, or otherwise on our YouTube channel of the same name in the blue corner, and we're broadcasting live right now.
Richmond were hot favourites in that grand final.
They were.
And we certainly threw them. You remember the lace-up jumpers that
Yes.
they would wear? Jimmy Jess used to wear one. Mark Lee's.
Geez, I tell you what, I think a few fingers got dislocated as a result of trying to tackle some of those players.
Absolutely. You could take Mark
Getting
Lee,
your fingers caught in the jumpers.
Yep. Mark Lee, the ruckman with his yellow boots with the black stripes. They were probably the first coloured boots in the day.
Well, they were often highlighted back then for the boots. You know, I think Sam Newman wore white boots for the first time when he played, and Dermot Brereton wore these fluorescent yellow, almost lime green type boots when he played. But these days, geez, they're all wearing coloured boots, aren't they? Just about all of the players. In fact, if you wear the traditional black ones, you're almost singled out for being a bit weird for wearing black boots. But nearly everyone's got a colour of some sort these days.
Absolutely. And got John Holden. Didn't
yes. G'day, John. Good to see you with us tonight. Didn't Kevin Bartlett wear a lace up? Yes, I think he did. I think a lot of those Richmond players used to wear the lace ups back then.
I used to love the lace up jumpers. So they were, of course, they're a collector's item now, aren't they?
Very much so. Going back to Thursday night.
The Tetley T logo.
Geez. Are you going to start rattling off every sponsor that they had too?
Yeah. We had Avco. We had
Avco Finance, but I don't know that I'd be bragging about Tetley T, the Tetley T Tigers. Anyway, we've got another comment here. Kathy Kirkpatrick. G'day, Kathy. Nice to see you with us. How did Sard not get a free for the finger in the eye? Yes, and Fish not get one for the slide tackle, I think it might have been, taking his legs. Yeah, umpiring was atrocious. Yeah, look, I think a lot of Carlton people weren't happy with the umpiring on Thursday night, but I think the Sard one was deemed to be an accidental thumb, I think it might have been, rather than a finger in his eye, and it immediately stopped him in his tracks, and he, needed some assistance even just getting off the ground, and took a while for him to get back on. But, geez, he really fought tenaciously after he came back on, didn't he? Even though he had that clear seeing issue.
He was one of our best, I thought, in the game.
Yep.
And regarding the slide tackle, it was an interesting one because definitely there was a slide tackle at the other end of the ground. However, that particular slide tackle, I don't know if the Richmond player tried to pull out or stop. Trying to remember who it was, and they couldn't. But it doesn't matter. I think if you've done it, you've done it. Yeah, that's right. Whether you could have stopped yourself or not is not the issue. Look, I think maybe the umpires might have given a little bit more leniency because of the conditions. It was quite wet and slippery. I think I said this a week or two ago that I felt that game should not have been scheduled on the Thursday night. I think it would have been much better scheduled today. In fact, there were no games at all in Melbourne yesterday or today. That was, to me, a very weird scheduling decision. I have a funny feeling it might have something to do with the fact that the Logies are on tonight or something. I don't know. There must be a reason for it. The only games in Melbourne were on the Thursday night with Richmond and Carlton and the Friday night with St Kilda and Essendon. The other four matches, all three of yesterday's matches on the Saturday were played interstate. The Port Adelaide game in Adelaide, then you had the West Coast game against Geelong. That was at Perth. And then last night, the GWS Bulldogs game was in Sydney. So, and of course, today, the Gold Coast Adelaide game was up there on the Gold Coast. So, maybe the AFL can come out and explain themselves, but they very rarely do, don't they? Oh, well, you know why. It's all about the Thursday night TV ratings to get the broadcast rights up.
Yeah, but if you're meant to be looking after your customers, which are the members and football paying public, they're not making these decisions with them in mind. That's for sure.
No.
Mm.
Another comment from John Holden. Sorry, Vince. I love reminiscing.
That's all right. And so does John, by the looks of it.
Yeah.
I remember a few Carlton players in the late 70s and 80s were wore blue Adidas boots. Yeah, that'd probably be right, John. I'm not sure whether the contracts were in place back then for what brand of boots they all had to wear. I know Kuda had a bit of an issue once when he wore Adidas boots and the rest of the team wore Nike. But, yeah, back then, a lot of them wore the Adidas boots. You're right. Look, just going back to the game on Thursday night, Steve, we did come back at them, but I think you'd have to say that our midfield got. I think they lowered their colours to the Richmond midfield, and I think that's where Richmond won the game. And sometimes the overuse of the ball by our team, but especially in the midfield, was incredible. I mean, in the conditions, and they were chip kicking 15-metre kicks, and it was really weird to see them play that brand of football.
That's what I said earlier, though. I think that we were trying to be too precise and too cute for the conditions. It's definitely suited Richmond's sort of frenetic, move the ball forward at all costs, running waves, that style of play. We tried to play probably a kick mark or run with overlap with handball too much, rather than get territory. And the territory element was we were exposed as well. They just got it in their 50-yard too many times, really. I mean, I think they had over 70 inside 50s. Not that I'm a big stats person, but the ball just lived in their forward line, didn't it?
And didn't Tom Lynch have a night out first game back for quite a few weeks?
And look, that was where we probably got hurt because Lynch playing against probably one of the more, one of the inexperienced defenders in Young. And I think, Young did his best.
I thought Young did fairly well for the night.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Lynch still scored his what did he score? 3 goals, wasn't it? At least.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 goals. Harry almost won the game for us off his own boot in that last quarter, kicking 3 goals in the 4 goals overall, but 3 in that last quarter really put us back in it and gave us a sniff.
That goal from the boundary line, it's obviously, he loves a snap rather than a drop punt. But how good was that? As good as any talented small forward or magician, that was, really, that was a forward pocket sort of small forwards magical snap.
Fantastic. Yeah. Great goal. Fantastic.
Pure technique to do that. That is absolute.
Well, someone had to stand up and get us back in, and it was Harry in the end. It had to be either Harry or Charlie, you would have thought. And in the end, it was Harry. I think Charlie clearly lowered his colours on the night to Dylan Grimes, who had by far the better of him.
With goal kicking with Mackay, it has to be mental. Totally. Yeah. I mean, his technique to be able to pull off some of those snaps, that's not luck. Yeah. That's pure class and skill.
But I've noticed with Harry that in more recent weeks, he has straightened up and done and kicked a lot more standard drop punts for goal. He got to the point at some point where he was kicking them around the corner and snapping them almost from directly in front. Yes. And it was getting beyond the joke where he was doing it nearly every shot. And I think a few people made the comment, geez, one day these sort of snap around the corner kicks are going to cost us an important game or maybe even a final. So I think he's clearly had a focus to get back to kicking your standard drop punt kicks for goal. And he's been very good at it too. And a far more reliable kick in front of goal in recent weeks.
Agreed.
Yeah. But Lynch kicked 3. Obviously important goals right when they needed them. And, of course, as I was saying before, our style of play was really quite bizarre at times. One of the disturbing stats that I saw at the end of the game was how many inside 50s we had conceded. There's someone that's Peter Vlahos, it looks like. They were playing dry weather football in the wet. There you go, 75 inside 50s conceded. Just that is an enormous amount of inside 50s. In fact, going into the game, a lot of people were worried about our defence because we'd lost Wiedering a couple of matches before that. Then we lost Marchbank after only 1 week back in. So everyone was thinking, what are we going to do? Our defence is vulnerable. And, of course, Sam Durden came in for his first game, and he also got injured on Thursday night. So we can't take a trick, can we, with these key defensive posts? But I thought our defence, considering how much the ball was coming down there, did a mighty job to restrict Richmond to only 81 points for the night. I mean, they were entitled to concede well over 100 points considering that many inside 50s.
And they would have, and they thought that they were inefficient in the forward line because they didn't at least kick 100.
Yeah.
So with two sides to that.
Now, I know that there were slippery weather conditions and all of that, but when the ball's coming down that often, you'd expect a lot more goals to be conceded. So I actually feel that our defence held up very well under the circumstances. If the ball's coming down that often, you'd be almost gassed by the end of the night, really, just chasing tail and constantly trying to, repel attack after attack after attack. I thought our midfield was well and truly beaten.
I agree with that.
Even though a couple of those midfielders were probably our best players on the night. Guys like Walsh, for example. In fact, Walsh and Cripps really did try their hardest. I think a couple of the other midfielders weren't quite as prolific as they had been in previous weeks. And, of course, we had Adam Chera missing out of the side this particular week. So probably only 1 or 2 of our usual 5, our Fab 5, were in there getting a lot of the ball. But I thought the Richmond midfield were far more efficient with the way they brought their ball into the forward line.
Agreed.
All right. Well, as we said, there was let's repeat the scores, I guess. First of all, Richmond were 11 goals, 15-81. To Carlton, 9-12-66. And, of course, they didn't have Dustin Martin in the side this week, Steve.
No, that's right. Look, a huge loss for them, but nonetheless, we certainly had sort of a lot more outs at an accumulative level.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so bad. I think the really players like Bolton, Lambert, they all contributed to their midfield. Presti was fantastic. All of those players really contributed, so it didn't impact them as much not having Martin.
Yes, and Prestia was one player in round 1 who got injured early and was subbed off. And I think him being on the ground for the entire match, and I think he what did he get in the end?
Vital to them. He really is important.
Oh, yeah, look, he got 33 possessions, so only, 1 possession behind Cripps and Walsh, who both got 34 each. But, he's vital to their team, I think, Prestia. Notice that that 3-quarter time dust up or what would you want to call it, an all-in brawl, or, well, I wouldn't call it a brawl. It was more like the footballers' waltz. But they were all having a bit of a dance at 3-quarter time. I think that was caused by Cripps pushing and shoving Prestia after he'd received a free kick, and then the 3-quarter time siren went, and as soon as that happened, Cripps just kicked the ball away and went up to Prestia and pushed him in a pretty strong fashion, and that caused Prestia to fight back. And the next minute, the whole of the two teams were into each other.
Yep.
Does that bring back memories at all, Steve?
Yeah, probably not Hawthorn Essendon Grand Final 1983, but on that outer wing on that southern side of the ground. But it was certainly a fair bit of push and shove. But the players are pretty smart now not to give away or get reported anyway. There may be fines out of that one, but
no, I wouldn't have thought there'd be too much.
Yeah.
I had a look at it and I thought it looked more, I think it was pretty tame. There were a few jumper punches and that was about it. And on the subject of jumper punch, don't forget every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, Rocco and the boys with the jumper punch. But yes, there was a bit of aggression there, but we fired up a little bit. I think that brawl might have even fired us up to try and have a tilt at them in the last quarter, and we almost pulled it off.
Yeah, it just goes to show that the players can score. The team can score quite quickly in spurts when they want to. Probably as quick as in the competition, really.
Surely that's going to give us confidence that even if we're 3 or 4 goals down, and with only maybe 10 minutes to go, we can still, put them on pretty quickly.
Yeah, and the strength is the Achilles heel, because, like in previous games, as you know, we spoke about this many times, winning one quarter and winning the game of football.
Yeah.
Scoring heavily, being able to get away with scoring heavily and scoring, 8 goals in a quarter, and that being enough to win the game. So as good as that is, that's a strength. You just want the consistency. You want the consistency, or at least the element of being in the game for longer, rather than needing to do that every week.
True. Well, what did you think of the decision? What do you call them? When they go to a score review. So the score review people, I think there's what do they call that room that they're in? Maybe someone can help me. What do they call it? I think there's a name that they give that room that they're in. It's almost like the Oval Office, and they all get together and have a look at these decisions and make one. They must have been very convinced that the Richmond defender touched that ball. The arc, that's it. Thanks, Peter. I'm glad to see someone's listening. Yes, those guys in the arc, they must have seen something that was very definitive, because I couldn't make it out that it was definitely touched.
Yeah, I think I
was expecting them to say there's insufficient evidence to see whether the ball was touched or not. So we'll go with the umpire's decision. Now, the umpire's decision was a goal. So to overturn it would have had to have been a definite sign that the ball was being touched. Now, I don't know that that was really definitive.
You normally need the finger going back.
Yeah, but even that.
Spin changing.
I think it's got to have more to do with the ball changing its trajectory or its shape, or how much it's spinning, or that sort of thing. I mean, just because fingers are, look like they're being pushed back, I mean, can we really see that?
Do you need a biomechanist or something? At the end of the day, it's factual. Yeah. I mean, and if it's still inconclusive, the original call needs to stay, which was a goal, correct?
Yes, that's what I would have thought. And I've got to say, if we had have got that goal and they had have paid it as insufficient evidence to overturn the decision, which would have meant, it stood as a goal, I reckon we had all the momentum to suggest that we might have, steamrolled them at that point. It's the overturning of the decision, and then from instead of being 3 points down, it went back to 8 points down. Then they got a goal back up to 14. So I think that took the wind out of our sails right there and then.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say
it did turn the game,
but you can't say we would have won, but we certainly had, every chance to continue to go on with it. Right? They needed a steadier.
Well, when there's 3 points of difference, whether you're in front or whether you're behind, you're pretty much, the next goal is going to win.
Yeah.
And when there's only that much time left on the scoreboard. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, we can only speculate, I suppose. But what I wanted to say about this was I think they've gone too far with this score review business. And I think it's really starting to work off the public, all of these score reviews. And look, for 125 years roughly, goal umpires have always made their own decisions. Field umpires have always made their own decisions. Now, the whole idea of having the score review, I thought, was purely goal line stuff, to see whether the ball had crossed the goal line before it was touched, or whether it had been touched on the goal line or beforehand, that sort of thing, right? So all of a sudden, now we're looking at whether a ball was touched 45 metres away. I mean, really? Why are we bothering with that? Why aren't we just leaving that up to the umpires who are on the field to call it whether it was touched or not call it whether it was? Now, if it happens to have scraped someone's fingernail on the way through, to me, if the umpire hasn't seen that or heard that, well, it shouldn't be counted. It should be the umpire's call. Same with these goal umpires now. They seem to be so panicky about making a decision for fear that maybe they'll get it wrong. So what do? If there's any doubt at all, they go straight to the score review, and it's holding up the game badly, and it's really irking off supporters, I think.
So you've got two examples in it. Firstly, if you talk about it in the round ball code, throughout the world.
Yeah, look, take soccer. It's only goal line technology, isn't it? It's just purely whether it's crossed the goal or not crossed the goal.
Well, no, there's two of those. You've got the goal line, yes.
Oh, and offside, of course.
You've also got VAR go into it. Now, VAR, the VAR can potentially go back 2-3 phases of play and said there was a handball 30 seconds ago.
Yeah.
From the team that scored a goal. Yeah. So we're going to pull the goal back because 30 seconds earlier,
someone touched the ball and the umpire didn't see it, or the referee didn't.
Correct.
Didn't see it. Yeah.
Now that you talk about upsetting supporters, absolutely destroys the game.
Look, again, I think that's going too far. Because it should be purely on whether it's offside or onside. And the second thing is, did it cross the goal line, or did for example, the goalkeeper save it, before it crossed the line in its entirety?
It was brought in initially to stop what they refer to as the howler, the obvious mistake. Now it's
so take it back to AFL. It was the 2009 grand final, which was, a very, very close result, where Tom Hawkins kicked a ball that was, given a goal by the goal umpire, whereas it in fact did snick the post. Clearly, snick the post.
2011.
Or was it 2011?
I don't want to correct you, but it was 2011.
Oh, 2011. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Okay, so it was against Collingwood, was it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I thought it was against St Kilda. Anyway, never mind. That's fine. Happy to be corrected. The point is,
it was against Collingwood. It's all right, isn't it?
It was in a grand final, so all of a sudden they've panicked and said, "Oh, geez, can you imagine if this had been at the end of the game type of thing?" Now, I think they've gone too far with it. They're using this score review business way too much for stuff to do with whether it was touched or not coming in towards the goals.
0-2 grand final, Anthony Rocker for Collingwood. Again, Collingwood been ripped off twice. Terrible tragedy. Against the Brisbane Lions, if you remember that grand final. Ball went, umpire said it went over the post. Yeah. Rocker to this day says it was a goal.
Well, we don't know. Unless we were there, unless we saw the ball literally, in front of our own eyes, how we're going to know. It should always, in my view, be up to the goal umpire to make the decision. It was always good enough for 125 years for them to make the decision. Now, with all of this technology and with everyone, with their eyes peeled on every little, every single frame in the video, umpires are too frightened to make a decision now for fear of making the wrong one.
It's becoming like tennis, where you basically, with the line, with the umpire and the
Well, what they do is that they allow the tennis players, they allow each of them 3 challenges, I think it is. They call them a challenge.
Cricket.
3 challenges remaining and all that sort of thing. So if they get it wrong 3 times, that's it. You can't challenge a line call for the rest of that set.
Is the captain of the opposing team going to say, "Hey, look, for Richmond, I was touched. I want to use one of my 3 challenges." Are they going to get to that point now, or what?
Well, I think that would work better.
Yeah.
I think that the challenge system would work better than having all these score reviews. I think if a team feels like they've been aggrieved as a result of either a goal umpiring decision or a field umpiring decision or even a boundary line umpiring decision, they should be able to say, no, I want this passage of play reviewed like they do in tennis or in soccer or in cricket. And once they get, 3 of them wrong, that's it, no more. It's purely up to the umpires. And if they get it wrong, you've used your challenges. What about, here's John again. What about the one in the last quarter when it was clearly rushed into the umpire who was in the middle of the goal line and called a review? Yeah, well, so
yeah. I mean that ball is going to be going through. It was touched.
It was good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hit the umpire. He's on the line. Come on, seriously?
Well, some people are saying that by the letter of the law, the fact that the goal umpire was there and the ball went back into play should have been play on. I don't agree. I don't think that's in the spirit of the game at all. If the only thing stopping that ball from crossing the line was the goal umpire's legs, well then it should be either a goal or a point, depending on what the score was going to be. But to say because it came off of him and the ball didn't technically cross the line that it should now be play on, no, I don't agree with that.
Yeah. The fact that they had to make a decision through the anyway.
Yeah. But really, I think these are the sorts of areas that have crept into our game in say the last 10 years that I think has been detrimental to the game. Detrimental to not only the game from a playing point of view for the players who must be awfully frustrated with all of this, but for the viewer and the average, punter who goes along and spends his money or her money, going to watch the footy with their family or with their kids or with their friends. It must be, a real turn-off to have to put up with all of this business. Score reviews upon score review upon score review all the time. It's just ridiculous. Yep. And no wonder people are staying away. People are saying, I've had enough. This game's turning into rubbish. And a lot of people are just not entertained by it anymore. I mean, the minute the game stops being entertaining, you're going to lose people. Because that's ultimately what it is for most people, a form of entertainment that they look forward to every week. If it's no longer entertaining and it's all too technical and it's all too stop-start and waiting for umpires and people in the arc to make reviews on things, it's just no wonder it's losing its appeal with so many people. I think the AFL's got a massive problem right now, and that's why people are staying away. It's nothing to do with the weather. We've had 113,000 people turn up to the 1979 grand final after there was 20 bloody inches of rain or whatever it was. So you can't tell me that weather keeps people away. What keeps them away more than anything is if they're not enjoying the viewing experience. And that's what I think's wrong. And
it's the whole experience though, Vince.
The entire experience.
Yeah.
It's having to pay $35 or whatever it costs you to park your car in Marvel Stadium. It's having to pay, ridiculous money for food and drinks at both stadiums, MCG and Marvel Stadium as well. It's having your seats constantly changing from one year to the next, and every time you're paying more money and getting a lesser and lesser viewing position.
And they try and tell you that they've upgraded you somehow, or that you're getting
right. I mean, that's like Dennis Pagan when he says, "Stop pissing on me and tell me that it's raining."
Yeah.
Well, that's what the AFL's doing to us. They're pissing on us and then telling you that it's the rain. It's not the case at all. And then, of course, you've got the game itself.
Yeah.
What's that?
Don't piss in my back. Don't piss in my back and tell me it's raining. Yeah.
Oh, whatever it was, yeah. And then, of course, you've got no pre-game VFL match to watch. Hasn't been the case for a long time now. But, again, I've made the suggestion that they should bring that back. I think a lot of people have been suggesting that for years, and yet it still falls on deaf ears.
What about all the music where you actually want to have a chat with your mates who you mainly see once a week at the football or once a fortnight at the football? Yeah. You want to speak to your fellow supporters. You're standing next to them.
Can't hear them.
You can't. Now, obviously, they've done the market research to say, millennial generation want this music, and it's what
American style stuff like they do with the basketball and the football and the baseball.
I don't care if you think if your marketing team think that, you've just lost a lot of people, because it's about selling the experience, which mothers, but not only that, Steve, take their kids and them and indoctrinate them on what it means to go to the football every week. Yes. And what traditions, it's passed on from generation to generation to generation. Yep. It doesn't need to be that music that really turns people off.
Not only that, the age bracket of person that is most turned off by that is the middle age to older age football supporter. They don't want that sort of racket in their ears while they're trying to talk to their family members or to the other supporters that they go to the footy with. You never had that at Princes Park. You had a reserves game going on.
Peanuts.
You had a reserves game going on.
You had the Peanut Man, or you had records. Yeah.
But if you add to that the fact that they've got all this music, which they would call noise, blaring in their ears, and then, of course, all of this, at an expense of even going to the football. And then after that, you've got to watch a style of football which is kicking it short, chip, backwards, forwards, backwards again, across the ground, that sort of style of football being played. And then, of course, you've got your issues to do with ticketing and having to go onto the internet and go onto a computer just to reserve your ticket. No wonder people are saying it's all too hard.
And it used to be, I know that this will obviously it used to be, 2:00 and all the games are at one time. I know that's never. I know that's not practical.
Not going to happen anymore. Yeah,
of course. But now it's completely ridiculous, as you've said.
They're only catering for the next generation or the current generation, if you like, and they're forgetting all about the traditional supporters who have supported the game and supported their teams for decades, and they are the ones who are most disillusioned by the AFL at the moment, in my view.
I've spoken to people who never thought they would stop going to the footy, and they have.
And they have.
I mean, I could mention people. You probably know some of them.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe, and you will be shocked, that they don't go to the footy anymore.
Yep.
That's what you're talking
and normally
about.
It's not just one thing, is it? It's normally an accumulation of things. Yep. It's not. So if the AFL is looking for the one silver bullet, like I noticed that this week they've announced, we're going to bring back paper tickets again. But not till next year, of course. This year's done, right? So we're not going to do it for this year. You have to wait till next year. Now, once people stop going, it'll be darn hard to get them back, even just with a paper ticket. Because, again, that's just one thing that they're going to do. What are they going to do about food prices? What are they going to do about where people are sitting, where they're used to sitting? And now they're no longer entitled to that. What are they going to do about car parking? What are they going to... These are the issues that all accumulate into, it's all too hard. I don't want to go anymore.
And it's patronising. They still don't understand, because you hear Martin Pakula, you hear Gil McLaughlin, even Mike Fitzpatrick the other night when he received his
Yes.
AFL Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame.
He said, "Oh, you, the supporters." Now, don't be wrong. Love Mike, not as a player and great servant of the club, but I'm talking about him as an administrator now. You, the supporters, are the powerful ones. You've thrown out 2 presidents at Carlton. It just goes to show your voice is really important. Blah blah blah. Really, Mike? Well, when you guys essentially hijack and control the game as you have, that's just lip service for mine.
Yeah.
I don't believe for a moment that they really mean that.
That was Mike Fitzpatrick, the politician.
Yeah.
To me. That was telling you what you want to hear. But in reality, it's 180 degrees different to what he just said.
Yeah.
The supporter has lost almost all power. And
Absolutely.
most football club boards now are beyond being challenged.
Yeah.
They are beyond a challenge. They really are.
And all the football club boards are not acting as advocates for their members.
No.
They're acting as almost cozying up to City Hall and enabling these changes to occur.
Yeah.
And all these surveys we receive, all of these things go into the black hole in the ether of data, and they're not listening to people.
No.
Not at all.
And the other thing is, you know, they make out like there's all of these, you know, massive increases of membership from one year to the next and the next and the next. Honestly, in my view, it's absolute and utter rubbish. These figures are so rubbery, and, you know, how they are counting memberships today compared to what they used to count, I just can't see how it's possible. I just can't.
The membership and marketing teams invent new ways to sign someone up as a member. I mean, they're creative. Hats off for creativity.
Yeah.
But
we all know that these figures are rubbery at every club, not just ours.
No, but how can the figures be right? Either these people are just prepared to just donate this money as a pure, I called it the Salvo's appeal last week, I think, right? Equivalent to that. Like, you pay your membership and it's a donation. Here you go.
Yeah.
Right? It's not tax deductible, unfortunately. Tax time at the moment, but coming up. But nonetheless, it's purely just a donation. But the attendances aren't there to match. So if you've got such a small percentage of the overall membership base attending, what's it saying? Can't be right.
Well, I think another issue that's going towards why crowd numbers are down is scheduling. Now, I made the point about Thursday night's game. Would have been a darn difficult one for a lot of people to get to. A lot of people got to work the next day. Kids got to go to school the next day. Cold, wet, miserable night. To get 50,000 was a pretty good effort, I thought, on behalf of most Richmond and Carlton supporters. But that could have easily been a 75,000 crowd if it was played today, for example. Sunday afternoon, 2:00, or even yesterday afternoon, 2:00, whatever. Saturday or Sunday afternoon, that's where it should have been.
Couldn't agree more. Imagine Sunday, Saturday afternoon, MCG, traditional middle of winter, traditional time slot, good weather.
Yep.
Oh, it would have been like the old days.
Now, we can't just use the fact that today was a lovely sunny day in Melbourne and Thursday night was wet, miserable and cold, because sometimes you can have a nice night on a Thursday and have a terrible Sunday afternoon, but weather-wise. But I'm just simply saying, from a convenience point of view, a lot more families can get to the footy on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon. That's the bottom line.
Best you would have got.
It is the best time slot and day of the week, Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, for people to go along with their partners and their kids and, friends and groups and all the whole lot. It's clearly the best time slot from a convenience point of view if you're looking to look after the fan and the member.
Best
But
you would have.
it's all about TV ratings. So that's why they
Best you would have got
for Thursday
even
night.
Thursday night was mild 9-degree evening.
Yeah.
60,000 best.
Yeah.
Best you could have got.
Yeah.
It was Saturday or Sunday afternoon. 80.
Yep. Well, we saw another 6 games for this round. This is the last of the what they call the bye rounds. So next week onwards, thankfully, we're back to having 9 games a week. Mind you, people are whinging about only 6 games a week, Steve. Mate, it was only, what was it? It was only sort of 35 years ago that we only had 12 teams. Every Saturday, there was only 6 games on a Saturday afternoon. That was it.
Then they had the
now 6 games played over about 4 days, and it's not enough.
North Melbourne had Friday nights, and Sydney Swans every second week had
Sunday afternoons.
Sunday afternoons. That's right. And the Army Reserve Cup. Remember that?
The Army Reserve Cup
on a Sunday afternoon.
Yes, but we've got to keep in mind those were in the days in the mid 1980s when the game was going broke. That's why they went national. Don't forget. So I think from a scheduling point of view, one of the things that they have got right for this particular week coming up is that every team in the 8 plays another team in the 8. So 4 of the 9 games next weekend are between top 8 teams playing each other. So it starts off with 1 versus 2. Thursday night, Melbourne versus Brisbane on a Thursday night. Now, yet again, you got to wonder about the Thursday night time slot. I don't mind Thursday night football, but honestly, I think it should be in every other state except Victoria.
This is for TV
and Tasmania.
This is obvious when you look.
I know, but what I'm trying to say is, I think that the Thursday night concept will be embraced a lot better if you do it in Adelaide or in Perth or in Brisbane or in Sydney than in Melbourne and forget Tassie. No way.
It has been because
too wet, too cold, too miserable. But in Perth and in Adelaide, Sydney and Brisbane, it works.
It's not just the weather though. That is there's 1 or 2 games in those cities per weekend.
Well, yeah, and those cities do support those Thursday night games by and large.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't have them in Melbourne. That's why I think last Thursday Richmond and Carlton didn't work. But anyway, if you're going to have it in Melbourne on a Thursday, it's got to be either at the very start of the season, like we have the Richmond Carlton game round 1 every year, because it's still quite warm. It's not cold yet. It's you will get 75,000 for that game. And the other option is obviously. In the finals in September, things are a little bit better. But anyway, Melbourne versus Brisbane, 1v2. That should be an absolute cracker of a game. Pick a winner. Did you pick a winner? Melbourne's not travelling too well.
I think
after winning their first 10 games, they've lost the next 3. Will they lose 4 in a row this time?
Yeah, I think they'll bounce back. I think they're too good a team. But anyway, we'll see.
I don't know. I think the cracks are appearing there. I wouldn't be surprised if Brisbane beats them. Yeah, I'm really worried about the Melbourne forward line. I think they are struggling to kick goals. I think they've only scored something like 55, 60 points for the last 3 rounds.
That is true. The midfield
and Max Gawn now is out for the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, the midfield though haven't been travelling great either, Vince.
Yeah, but now with Max Gawn out, that really only adds to their woes. I think they've got a real problem going forward. I think the ship is starting to show that it's got some leaks in it. Anyway, next one I wanted to talk about was, of course, ourselves, currently in 5th position, playing the Fremantle Dockers, who are currently in 3rd. That should be a cracker of a game. Now, they beat us by roughly 6 goals earlier this year when we played them in Perth, and with clearly the better team that night. What do you think this Saturday afternoon, after a 9-day break, Carlton coming up against Fremantle at Marvel Stadium, where we probably play our best football? Do you think we win?
going to be very close. Without a full team, I think Chera will be back, maybe.
Chera might be back. Yep.
It's going to be close. That's a flip of the coin game for mine.
Who do we bring in now that Sam even our mid-year draft mid-season draftee Sam Durden's gone down with a medial ligament in his knee. So I think there's only one player left who's tall enough to play a position down back, and that's Brodie Kemp. I think they might have to rush him in. Otherwise, I don't know. It'll have to be someone like Jack Silvani. And he's been supporting DeConning in the ruck, so I don't know how that's going to work.
And they've got their ruckman. He's been in very good form.
Yeah, Darcy.
And the forward, big forward.
Fremantle.
His name escapes me. It'll come to me anyway. Look, our midfield are going to have to really kick some goals and get control of the game to win. We can do it though, but it's not going to be easy.
And of course, Nathan Fyfe, dual Brownlow medalist, he's back.
Yeah.
So that just adds to our woes.
Taberner was the.
Oh, you're talking about Taberner, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, from a personnel point of view, I think they hold probably a lot of advantages, but we do play our best football at Marvel, and I think it'll be a cracking game. The other games I wanted to mention of teams that are in the 8, Geelong versus Richmond on Saturday, the twilight game. That's at Cardinia Park, or GMHBA Stadium, as they call it now.
Yep.
That'll be a good game too, won't it? Geelong versus Richmond. They're both in really good form.
Yeah, it's going to be a very good game. It'll certainly test Geelong. I think Richmond are a better team than what they were earlier in the year. I'll probably just favour Geelong on that one.
Geelong only just got over the Eagles by 18 points yesterday, and I thought that they were very lucky and, as usual, got the rub of the green with umpiring decisions, etc., which really irks me with them.
It's at the MCG, Vince, actually, that game.
Sorry, it's at the MCG, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, well, there you go. That probably brings it back to being a more even game in terms of, no more home ground advantage for Geelong. In fact, it's at Richmond's home game, home ground. So really, even though they're the away team, it's at their ground. They play there a lot more than Geelong does. So who do you think wins that?
Oh, look, I think Geelong are still a good team at the MCG, though. But, yeah, it's maybe Richmond. Maybe. Yeah, good game, though.
Yeah, I'd probably just favour Geelong, just. And Sydney versus St Kilda. Both teams had shock losses. Sydney were expected to beat Port Adelaide in Adelaide, and they lost. And St Kilda were expected to beat Essendon and went down quite badly on Friday night. So, whoever loses this match is going to start getting the wobbles in terms of keeping their spot in the 8.
Yeah, that's in Sydney. I'll go with the home team there.
Yep, you're going for Sydney?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as you can see, it's a great round, and there's even another couple of entertaining games, even Port Adelaide versus Gold Coast. Now, both of these teams are outside the 8, but they've still both got sneaky finals chances.
So if Port or Gold Coast lose, you'd maybe say curtains for the loser for that game.
I'd say it's Port losers, definitely, because they've won one less game than the others. I think they've only got the 6 games from the first 13, whereas Gold Coast have won 7 out of their first 13. So, yeah, Port Adelaide, it's must win. Gold Coast wouldn't want to drop it, but, yeah, it's going to be a really competitive game. Collingwood versus GWS. Now, that's at the MCG on Sunday afternoon. They wouldn't want to take GWS too lightly.
Well, remember the last time they played them at the MCG? I think, maybe not the last time.
GWS might have got them last time.
Well, no, I'm just thinking back to 2019, that prelim
Oh, right, yes. Well, yeah, that was the game that Zach Williams put on a really good performance, and that convinced the Carlton recruiting staff to go after him and pay him 3 times what he's worth, thinking they could turn him into a gun midfielder.
Well,
what a bizarre decision.
Being Carlton, we're thinking anyone plays well against Collingwood deserves a bit extra.
And there's another really good game too on Friday night with Western Bulldogs hosting Hawthorn at Marvel Stadium. That should be a good game too, I reckon.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bulldogs still fighting for a final spot as well.
Yeah, Hawthorn probably now, down at, I think they've only got the 4 wins, so I think they're out of finals contention.
And on their day can beat anybody.
Yeah. I think we're very much down to the top 12 teams now on the ladder. Down to Port Adelaide, who are on 6 and 7. Still a sneaky chance. They'd have to keep winning a lot of games, though. But down below them now, it's 2 games. So Port Adelaide are 2 games clear of GWS, Hawthorn and Adelaide, who are all on 4 wins and 9 losses. So those teams really can't make it. They'd have to win every single game between now and the end of the year just to sneak into the 8. I can't see it happening. No. Essendon have finally won their 3rd game for the year after their very convincing performance on Friday night.
1 week too late with the 150th, eh?
Well, yeah. Well, good from our point of view. And, of course, the 2 bottom-of-the-ladder sides, North Melbourne and West Coast, only with one win each, and they're separated by 0.1%. North Melbourne's on 52.3 and West Coast is on 52.2. So can you pick who's going to finish on the bottom of the ladder and get the number 1 draft pick?
When do they play that Cruiser Cup game between
I don't know. Do they play each other again or not? I don't know.
I'm looking up now for you.
Maybe they do. But anyway, it's an intriguing round coming up next week. Now, before we do that, I'm just going to quickly ask for your votes from last Thursday night's Richmond Carlton game. Who's your 3, 2, and 1 from a Carlton perspective?
I thought Sard was 3, Cripps 2, Mackay 1. We had some other good players, but that was
Sard was certainly very good when he came on. Yeah. So you gave Sard best on the ground for Carlton, okay? And Cripps 2 and Mackay 1. Is that right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, I think we would have lost by a lot more had he not played that well.
Yeah, well, you're probably right. It's really interesting.
He had to play as a defender.
Yeah.
Where he doesn't normally like to play. Call these left field votes, but
yeah,
he had to play as a defender where he doesn't normally like to play very, very deep.
Yes.
And then he tried to get up the ground and worked really hard both ways.
Yeah.
So I thought
he has definitely added a more staunch defensive side to his game this year compared to last year.
The knock on him was it
was all attack and no defence last year.
And he didn't want to play on a man when Essendon asked him to, allegedly. Right?
Mm.
Yeah, anyway.
I don't know. Well, funnily enough, I went for only one of those 3 in my votes. I had Sam Doherty as our best player on the ground. I thought he was outstanding.
He was.
So I gave him 3. I gave Sam Walsh 2. I thought he was extremely effective on the night. Most of his 34 possessions were actually kicks, and I think he gained us a lot more yardage than Cripps did, who also had 34, but 25 of those 34 were hand passes and only 9 kicks. So I didn't put him in the votes, even though he got his 34 possessions. And I gave Sard 1. So, Doherty, Walsh and Sard, with a big mention also to Harry Mackay, who didn't get in the votes either. But he certainly put on that spurt in the last quarter that could have been a match winner.
What I thought about Mackay was that, he didn't have a lot of opportunity, to be fair. Not his fault. But when he did, he took his chances and
Yeah,
certainly
absolutely.
making it difficult.
Yeah, look, 4 goals, you can't ask for much more than that from your full forward on a wet night. A bit of a mention, too, to a few players who are often much maligned, and, a lot of supporters are always calling for their head to be, put on a guillotine. I thought that they played a pretty serviceable game, all of these. Cottrell was one, yes. Jack Nunes, he got 20 possessions. I thought he was quite effective on the night. Nick Newman also, not as good as last week, but still pretty good, I thought, on the night. And another one, young Jordan Boyd. I thought he played a really good game, and I was delighted for him. I think he'll definitely keep his spot in the side after that performance. He was just really, he had the long sleeves on. He had the, Wayne Harms' number 37 on his back, and I just thought, this kid's really trying hard. A lot of his passes were brilliant. And in fact, in that last quarter, his kick to Harry Mackay on the lead was just, superb. And I'm really wrapped for the kid. I think he's doing really well.
I love seeing number 37.
That's right, yeah. And also Lewis Young. Down in the key back position. I think, again, he's just been a godsend that we've actually ended up recruiting him. I think a lot of people questioned the recruiting of Lewis Young at the start of the year, but now they're very grateful that he actually came across because he's been very good. And by the way, he may even keep a Mitch McGovern out of the side, even when he does come back from that injury, because I don't think he should just be automatically put back in. He should be made to earn his spot. Why should Lewis Young be sacrificed for Mitch McGovern? Tell me.
McGovern will be put back in the back line?
Well, and whose spot is he going to take?
Maybe they'll make another position for him.
I don't know. Anyway, so that's your votes for the last week.
Yep.
I'm not sure whether there's anything else you wanted to discuss on the AFL front or the Carlton Football Club front, but that pretty much does our segments for the week. I don't think there's any more comments or questions coming from our viewers at this point in time.
Nothing beyond what we've discussed.
Okay. Well, I think that pretty much finishes our show for the week, doesn't it? I think we've been going for an hour. So thanks again, Steve, for making yourself available on this Sunday evening, and we look forward to doing it again next week.
Certainly. Look forward to it.
Don't forget, as I said, we've got the Jumper Punch on Tuesday night, episode number 40 coming up. So that'll be interesting to see who they've got as an interview this week. And, of course, don't forget our midweek show with Joe and Beachy. That usually takes place on a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. So don't forget to watch the unofficial match committee, as they call themselves, deciding who's going to be in and who's going to be out of the Carlton side before it's announced. And, of course, we've got that big game against Fremantle next Saturday afternoon at 1:45 at Marvel Stadium. Let's all try and get down there and support the boys. It's going to be a pretty loud Carlton contingent, you would have thought. I can't see too many Fremantle supporters coming down from Perth. Can you?
I wouldn't have thought so. Get your mobile phones, get your digital tickets ready.
Yes.
Save money. Don't spend any money during the week. Save it all for the...
Yeah, save it all for the car park, $35. A pie will be about $7.50, and a bucket of chips will be about $5.90 or something.
Level two will be empty, but everyone will be back in the nosebleeds at level 3.
Oh yeah, level 2 will be half empty, and all of level 3 will be packed.
Yeah.
Why do they do that, Steve? Why?
Well, it's all about that's your premium A reserve ticket, isn't it?
Yes,
you know what those memberships cost?
What?
To get a level 2 ticket
for every game?
Yeah, and MCG.
Tell me.
$900.
Wow, $900 for 1 year.
Yep.
It's not cheap, is it?
Only idiots like me spend that sort of money.
Did you spend that sort of money this year?
I did.
Have you gone to any games?
Oh, it's a donation, mate.
It's a donation to the Carlton Football Club.
It's a donation.
It's a Carlton membership. It's a Carlton membership.
You just do it without thinking. Every year the thing comes and you just pay for it.
I tell you what, with the way petrol prices are going and the prices of fruit and vegetables and food in general, and your shopping docket's going to be very, very expensive from now on. I think you might want to rethink that $900.
I think I'll be reallocating. I may be reallocating up to nosebleed status, but
I think the AFL ought to be. I think the AFL ought to be very mindful of this. Is that buying a membership for your club is a discretionary spend.
Absolutely.
And when things get tight, and all of a sudden family budgets are put under pressure, one of the first things that people look at is, what else am I spending money on that I really don't need to spend money on?
Well,
and that might start seeing some membership figures decline from now on if they're not careful.
And you know what? It won't just necessarily, and this is where they'll con you. Oh, sorry, I know we were just about to wrap the show up, but
we were.
That's all right. I think I started this.
No, I started the Lord Knower going again.
Okay, so
let's rev you up. Go on.
Okay, so it's called yield. And we're not having an economics lecture here. I'm just talking about it from a membership perspective, right? So member yield. So you've got all these premium A members don't turn up, and they think, you know what? Why am I a premium A? I could just be a 3-gamer.
Yep.
Carlton Captain's Club 3-game.
Yep.
No problems.
No.
I'll drop that back. Now, that goes from 900 to 380 or 400. I haven't got the list of the prices in front of me.
Yeah.
You work it out, right?
Yeah.
Why am I gonna spend 900 when I don't go as much as I want to, or I don't see the value, or interest rates have gone up, petrol prices have gone up, electricity, gas has gone up, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Right. Lettuce is now $12 rather than $4. Right.
It wasn't that long ago. Lettuce was $1.80 at Coles.
Yes.
Now it's $12 or something.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Anyway, so people are going, I'll still have when the Salvo's appeal still comes out, I'll still donate, but it'll be a 3-game membership. It won't be a $900 reserved seat package anymore.
But some people might just give it up altogether, Steve. That's what I'm trying to say.
But some
people will actually say, you know what? No, I'd rather spend, X dollars on KO or on Foxtel or whatever, and I'll just watch AFL matches on TV or on my phone.
What I'm trying to tell you is the clubs at AFL will con the supporters to say the membership figures are higher than ever. Yeah, sure. But it doesn't tell you how many people have downgraded to a 3-game membership from a full membership. It doesn't.
And that's why, in my view, and it's always been my view, that membership numbers are irrelevant. What the club should be reporting is revenue, dollars. Yield dollars earned from memberships, because some of them, take Carlton's figures. It wasn't that long ago that we were in our 40s. We were in the 40s. Back about 7 years ago, it might have been about 40,000, 47, 48,000, and then all of a sudden, we had change of president and change of administration, and all of a sudden this focus was on, increasing the numbers of members at all costs and in any way, shape, or form. And you do have to, wonder how memberships have been defined and how memberships have been crafted and manipulated over that period of time, so that people can crow about. People can crow about now. You're trying to tell me that in Carlton's first 150 years, the best we could get was 48,000 members. And in the last 7 years, that's gone up by 32, 33, now something like 36,000. How's it gone up by 36,000 people in a period where we have been absolutely shithouse on the field. How does that happen? Doesn't anybody who applauds the club, oh, well done, how fantastic, we've got 85,000 members this year. How does that just happen within 7 years of when it was 48,000? When we were crap right through that period. Absolute rubbish.
2 points on that. 2 points on that. The former president at an AGM, I asked him about membership numbers, and he said to me, yes, we're only 46,000, but our yield is at the highest of the AFL. Now, what they mean is spend
revenue
per member, right? So, you know,
so we're getting an average of $102 per member or something profit.
Oh no, revenue. So we might be
saying, revenue or profit.
Well, I don't know.
Because to me, what matters is the profit. Because you can be selling memberships for a certain amount of revenue, but it all depends on how much you're giving away for those memberships.
Try.
So what's the profitability on memberships?
Just getting the revenue breakdown would be a miracle from our balance sheet, but that's
even the revenue would be nice to know, let alone the profit. Yeah,
absolutely. Let's not go. Let's not ask for too much. So and then suddenly a new CEO comes in.
Yeah.
New CEO comes in.
Who was recruited, by the way, from a team where he allegedly was responsible for getting their membership figures up by record numbers in a short space of time.
And he was a former membership manager.
Correct.
So
he wasn't a CEO.
Shall we say there's an agenda with KPIs there? Anyway.
Clearly.
Yeah.
And maybe bonuses were based on certain things being achieved in that area. So, again, whatever it takes. You do whatever it takes to get that KPI so that you can get your bonus. Anyway, but whether those figures are real or not is highly questionable.
Yeah.
Highly questionable.
Next season's going to be interesting because most people have paid their membership or on a direct debit and have paid most of their membership. But it's going to be interesting next year to see if people downgrade or just quit altogether. Yeah.
Well, look, I think what will help the figures to stay elevated is on-field success. That will certainly tempt a lot of people to, if they can afford it, to stick with their membership or at least some form of membership. But if all of a sudden, we fall out and miss the 8 or something, I mean, can you imagine? A lot of people would then say, oh, well, geez, I was teased for half a season and then we collapsed and fell out of the 8. Well, the last thing we need is to fall out of the 8 now, because I think most Carlton people have been almost, tantalised by the prospect of finishing possibly in the top 4.
Yes. It's a hard run home, though. Not an easy draw.
Well, I did say these 3 weeks were going to be a real test. We've failed the first one by losing to Richmond. The next 2 weeks are crucial because we play Fremantle here and then St Kilda. If we drop both of those games, then we're starting to struggle to even keep our spot in the 8, let alone finish top 4. We've got to win at least. We've got to win at least 1 out of the next 2.
And we were lucky that Sydney and St Kilda both lost, because we would have been further. We would have been 7th.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, it is what it is. We are 5th, and we've got a big chance if we can redeem ourselves this week against Fremantle, and even up the ledger, so to speak, after they defeated us the first time around. So they're one of the 5 teams that we're playing twice. Richmond was the first of those that we played twice. So this week is another team that we play twice, Fremantle. Then we've got St Kilda, and then, of course, West Coast over in Perth before we play Geelong back here. So, I mean, you might say the West Coast Eagles should be, pencil it in for a win. Well, they played a lot better football on the weekend too to challenge Geelong for most of that match.
Yeah.
So they won't be easy beats. And then, of course, Geelong. And we still haven't played, sides like Brisbane and Melbourne. and we've got to play Collingwood in the last round again. So, you know, we wouldn't want the wheels to fall off from here, would we?
No.
Anyway, let's hope that we can redeem ourselves this coming Saturday at Marvel Stadium against Fremantle, 1:45 p.m. See if you can get yourselves down there. And just when I don't know how long it was ago that I started to wrap up the show, probably a quarter of an hour ago. But we are going to wrap it up now. So if you've been watching, thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next Sunday night at 8 o'clock for another episode of, what are we? Blue Sunday on In the Blue Corner channel. Until then, see you everyone. Go Blues.